Welcome back, everyone. This is the Game One Loves Forever, the golf podcast. Today, I'm very excited. I've been waiting quite a while now to get you on, but we have John here today. Thanks for coming on, John.
Thank you for having me. It's been a minute.
Yeah. I'm excited because we played together for a while now, but you played college golf. I know that much, but I don't really know how your golf journey started. So I'm interested to know that. But so let's get right into it. So first question I ask everyone, how did your golf journey start?
Yeah, so I grew up in Sacramento. Family was very into sports. So I played baseball pretty much up until I was 12, very competitively every weekend, bunch of different sports. And I started playing golf when I was about 11 and I got hooked. And from there, my golf swing started messing up my baseball swing.
Yeah.
So kind of fell in love with the game, and I was like, I want to see how good I can get at this.
Yeah.
So then,
who first introduced you to golf? Was it your dad? Or
yeah,
just
my
a
dad
friend?
played a little bit.
Okay.
He always liked watching on TV. His dad played a decent amount, but my dad wasn't very good, so he'd take me out. We mainly just chipped and putted, things like that.
Okay. And it's funny that you say about the golf. I mean, golf with your baseball swing is when I played baseball, everyone asked me, do you play golf? I'm like, well, that's not a good sign. They're asking me.
Exactly. Yeah, it got to the point where I could only hit low pitches. So like, unless the ball was almost in the dirt, I was striking out every time. And that's when I was like, maybe I need to transition.
Yeah. So, so you started when you were 11. Did you kind of play in any tournaments when you started, or was
I did. So I'd been playing a little bit, like first tee camps, things like that, getting into the game, mainly just playing with my dad. Thought I was pretty good and played in my first tournament when I was 12 up in Napa.
Oh, nice.
And from there, I played with two guys that one's on the PGA Tour now.
Oh,
Both
dang.
shot even par for 2 rounds.
Yeah.
144 strokes for 2 rounds. And I was barely breaking 100, and I was like, I have a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
I wasn't as good as I thought I was.
Yeah, that's always your first tournament's always an eye opener. Like even for me going back and playing again, like in tournaments now, and when we play with your buddies, you probably take a stroke here, take a stroke there, right? And then you actually play in a tournament where every stroke counts, and then you end up shooting a 92, and you're like, okay, that's really where I really am, right?
Yeah,
And
tournament golf's a lot different than just playing with your buddies.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Okay, so who's the guy that went to the PGA?
it was Kurt Kitayama. He's still on the PGA. He's doing pretty good.
Yeah.
He grew up in Chico. Chico went to UNLV.
Oh, nice.
Then the other guy was Nick Schaefer, and he played D1 golf on the East Coast, but both were just studs.
Dang.
And it was crazy experience. First tournament playing with two guys like that.
I bet just seeing that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's got to be pretty cool. Well, cool, but then also maybe a little demoralizing.
Yeah, it was definitely humbling, that's for sure.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, humbling's a better word. I wouldn't say demoralized. Yeah, but so that was your first tournament. Do they, when you're 11, 12, is it closer? I'm assuming, or was it actually like whites? Like,
yeah, they had shorter yardages. I'd say you were probably playing 6,000 yards when you're up to 12. As you get up to 14, it probably bumps up to about 6,400.
Okay.
And then once you get over that 16-year age mark, you're pretty much playing the tips, if not one up every tournament.
Yeah, I remember in high school, which I'm assuming you played high school as well.
I did.
Yeah, we played, I think whites or blues, but either way, we played regular. I mean, once you're 14, 15 years old, you start playing the regular courses, regular lengths. Yeah. So what was your high school, I guess, career like, so to speak?
Yes, we had a really good team. I went to Jesuit High School, so we we probably had 9 guys play college golf from our team. Once I started varsity, so it's a super talented team. We never actually made it to states, which was pretty crazy with how good we were. But
anybody individually qualify?
I think we may have had one guy, but yeah, we were always like right on the borderline. Came in fourth, and they took top 3. But yeah, great team. We all just practiced together, played together, and it was fun because most of us moved on to college, so we were playing against each other. At the next level.
So you get into college, your high school team. Oh, that's what I was asking. Your high school team were you guys all like single sport, or did you guys play other sports too?
Most of us were just golf. I
Okay.
know a couple of them probably could have played other sports,
Yeah.
but for the most part, we all focused on golf. We're just grinding every day,
Mm-hmm.
doing that, and trying to make it to the college level.
Yeah. So that was already a goal when you guys were playing high school.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Okay. And what was the daily grind of, because I played high school, and what was the daily grind of your high school golf? Because mine was literally we go to the range, we'll chip and putt, and that was it for about maybe an hour.
Definitely.
Now I
Yeah.
went to a smaller school, but
Yeah. It
but
depended because during the school year, you're obviously going to school from 8 to 3,
3 or
whenever it
4,
was. So from there, we were very close to Ansel Hoffman, which was nice. So it was about a 5-minute drive to get over there, and then it was pretty much play until it got dark. And so that's a little different. High school was a lot different. During the summertime, it was your parents drop you off at the course at 7:30 on their way to work, and then they pick you up on the way home.
Yeah.
Which was the best part.
Yeah.
But high school during the year was a little tough with school because you only have so much daytime. But we were pretty much out there every day, even if there was practice or not.
Dang. Yeah, it's I remember that too. I'm in high school. My mom would on Saturday drop us off first tee time.
Yeah.
Because it's juniors, and our home course was Mather.
Okay.
What was your guys' home course?
The Ansel Hoffman.
Oh, okay, so it was Ansel. Drop us off. I don't know, first tee time in the morning, play 18, and then again walk it because it was free. I think the replay for juniors. I think if I remember, but so we played 36 holes like every other Saturday.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I look back now and I think Ansel Hoffman was probably so sick of us because it was just, since we were 12 years old, we were just out there all the time.
Yeah.
As long as it was light out, we were out there, and they probably got sick of us just tearing up their chipping green, putting green, all that.
What was your what were your scores like in high school?
High school, 72 was probably good. We weren't shooting crazy under for the most part, so it was only maybe 1 or 2 under would be a good round, but there wasn't too many 80s either. So I'd say it was probably averaging 75, fairly consistent on the local courses around here.
Yeah, you guys had a good team then.
Yeah,
no,
we were really good. I mean, if you shot on the 9-hole matches, if you shot in the 40s, that was a bad score.
Yeah.
So
that's funny. Yeah, I mean, we always, that was our goal too, try to break 40. Because if for everyone who doesn't know, high school's 9 holes, and then you play maybe 2 or 3 18-hole like section tournaments or regional tournament, exactly. Or league tournaments, and then you move on. Yeah, I mean, we were a little D5 school, but if you guys were shooting, a couple over par, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
But it also sounds like you guys are grinding too.
There's a lot of practice in there. But
did any of you and any of your teammates end up going to the same school?
Yes, so I went. One of my best friends, we went to Cal State Stanislaus together.
Nice.
So that's a D2 school in Turlock, and that was a nice little stepping stone because college golf is a big difference, especially if you're not hitting it as far. Everything gets pushed back, the pins get harder. So that was definitely a good stepping stone for me, at least, rather than going straight to D1. But I mean, our team had a guy go to TCU, Cal, UC Davis, Sac State, Cal State Fullerton. Dang. There was so
you guys
a lot of talent.
Everyone went somewhere.
Yeah, for the most part. And there was a bunch that just went to school. Could have played college golf at a D2 level, but they just decided that they didn't want to
keep going on the grind. Yeah. Wanted to enjoy school.
Yeah, exactly. Go to Ole Miss and join a fraternity.
So now you're in college and you're at the D2 school. What does that look like as far as like practice or just your golf life at that point?
Yeah, so that's where everything changes. I'd say more so D1 than D2. D2, you're on your own a little bit more as far as you're not required to be out there as long. And the way your schedule works is like D1, your schedule, you don't have a class after 12 o'clock. So everything's in the morning, and then as soon as you're done with school, it's practice till it gets dark. D2 was a little different where you could have classes roll over into 2 o'clock and things like that. You tried to avoid it, but you didn't have as much wiggle room with the school setting up your classes to make sure that happened.
Yeah.
But for the most part, very similar as far as soon as you were done with class, it was out on the course till it got dark, come home, do the same thing in the morning. College is when they started workouts too. It was 3 days a week, 6 a.m. In the gym, working out, trying to get stronger. And,
That's true. That's a whole nother, because I just saw something too that like they showed Scotty Scheffler's kind of workout. I'm like, dang, he works out. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's not just like mobility. He's actually pushing sleds and
Exactly, yeah. That's what was a little more shocking to me when I got into college, because I thought, golf, it would be more flexibility, core strength, things like that. And they had us training like basically with the football team. And that was a shock to me, especially being like a scrawnier dude
yeah.
going there. But it definitely helped out a ton with strength and things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. I mean, that's one thing too, is like there's a lot of skinny guys on the tour.
Yeah,
And they're
I think it fits
pounding the ball.
it fits the golf swing a little more
Oh, okay.
without the muscle getting in the way is kind of what I think. But it's
Yeah.
more like they have more fast twitch muscles, which allows them to get that speed, and they're using all the force.
Yeah.
Especially if you watch Justin Thomas.
Yeah.
And all his feet are off the ground. When he's at impact.
Dang. Just all that force back into it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So getting into the practice, was your coach like with you guys, or was it all on you?
Yes. So they
or did they give you a regiment?
Yeah, so I mean, practice was pretty much, as far as I can remember, 4 to 5 days a week scheduled with the team. In there would include qualifying, things like that. But the coach was out there every single day, Monday through Friday when we had practice. And then weekends, obviously, they have a family, they have a life too. So they're not out there, but we had access to all the courses and practice facilities and things like that. So it's pretty much...
So other than like the competition, because you do have to play well, I'm sure, but if you're a golf junkie, it's like perfect, huh?
Yeah, it is. It is. You have to definitely love it, because I was just thinking about it, and I was like, from when I was 12 to college, I probably took no more than 10 days off in 10 years of golf. It was just every single day, and that's where later on in my career, when I realized, I was like, hey, you're not going to make it pro, or I just kind of lost the inspiration to do that. Practicing that much and practicing that hard and spending your whole life doing it, it didn't make it feasible anymore. It makes sense in my brain to keep going.
Yeah, that's I don't know if that's like a happy moment, or like you said, a humbling moment, or what is that? What did you, when you finally realize, okay, this is probably the end? Were you happy?
Probably more sad, because you're like, dang, I just spent 10 years like doing this every single day and then not making it. But at the same time, I mean, it's a little freeing too. It's like a relief, because it is super stressful. Just you're planning your whole life around one thing, and then you're like, okay, now I'm a little bit more free.
It's almost like you put your whole, like your life on hold, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, you are going towards something, but anything beyond that.
Yeah. It opens everything up. It's like, hey, what do I want to do now? Like, that's how I got into mortgages. All of that. So.
Okay. So, like for me, I obviously don't practice enough, and I'm pretty decent for not practicing. I'm back in right after high school, I was probably around where you guys were, meaning like I was like in the mid 70s, high 70s. I did try out for Sierra College.
Okay.
And it was kind of funny because, you go before, and I was just kind of a walk-on, join the class, and then you're playing with all these guys, and you're like, oh, I can beat them. But then all of a sudden, once the actual tryouts came, these guys came from nowhere. Yeah. And it was like, so basically, it was kind of a setup, really. Like maybe one or two guys could get through, but then, so I felt like I had a chance, yeah. And then as soon as the real tryouts came, there was these other 8 guys who came on, and they were all, scratch, if not better.
Definitely.
And it was like, okay, well then, why I'm out? You know what I mean? It was kind of like, I still liked it because I got to play and got to practice, and played Diamond Oaks twice a week or whatever it was, and I got pretty good there, but not like those other guys. I mean, they were, at least par or better, so they're whooping me, and like you said, it's like humbling / demoralizing. You're like, okay, well, that's the end there.
Exactly. And that's what it was like qualifying too, because you're playing, it's 5 people go to the tournament, and there's 8 to 11 guys on the team, and they're all your friends, right? You're spending all your time with them. but then you're competing against them at the
Yeah.
same time. So that's the hardest part is you don't want to root against them, but you don't want to be
You
the
wanna
one that's,
play.
yeah, you don't want to be
Yeah.
the one that's left at home. That's the worst feeling in the world.
Yeah, that's interesting. So would you would compete for every match beforehand?
Yeah. So
Or
there was at the beginning of the season, you'd usually do like quite a long qualifying, anywhere from 4 to 10 rounds. And normally how it worked was top three were automatically in, and then the fourth and fifth spot were coaches' picks.
okay.
So it's up to his discretion. Sometimes, most of the time, they'd pick the guys who qualified, but if they thought someone might be playing better at this course,
Yeah.
they may take someone else. So that's how it worked. And then if you played well enough in the tournament, you were auto exempt. So usually each tournament had 1 to 2 spots available, usually 2, for about 6 guys. So then you would all go out there, play usually about 3 rounds of qualifying, just depending on how much time you have between
Yeah, yeah.
tournaments, and battle it out, and
Dang.
whoever's lowest goes.
I do remember that. I mean, luckily, when high school, it was high school, but luckily we did start with like 8 guys or something, more than like the 6 that you take, each for each match, and it was like that. Eventually, we just got 6, and the other people dropped off because either they just didn't want to work at it or for whatever reason. I mean, it's high school.
Yeah,
Kids
exactly.
drop things for no reason. So it ended up being 6, but before that, yeah, I mean I think 5 and 6, and then the rest of them had to battle it out every other week.
Yep. Which is the most stressful part too.
And it's true, and it doesn't build camaraderie
No,
in a sense, right? Because then you're like,
we're trying to work on things too for a tournament, but then you have to play just to get in. And so it was always balancing. It was super stressful.
yeah,
The whole
that part
time.
doesn't sound fun.
No,
Yeah.
not at all. Going to the tournaments was like relieving almost, because you're like,
now
all
you're a
right,
team.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Was there any, I don't know, ill will, or I feel like
I think it could be, it could be built up, but for the most part, like you said, just guys don't really care about that. Like,
Yeah,
if you don't make it, it's because you're not playing.
Yeah. You just go work harder, right? And
you're not
try
playing
next
well
time.
enough, or you're not good enough, one of the two. So I'm sure it could be built up over time for sure. You think, oh, hey, the coach has favorites here or there, but at the end of the day, it's if you were playing good enough, you would be traveling.
Yeah. And that's crazy. You played it every day, or at least practice, right?
Yeah. It was a lot more practice for me, which is one thing that I do regret, where I was spending way too much time on the range, chipping, putting, when I should have been out playing more, because that's how you score, right? You gotta go out on the course, figure out how to score when you're out there when things aren't going well.
Yeah.
And I was spending too much time trying to get the swing perfect, putting stroke perfect, which was kind of my downfall.
Oh, that's interesting because so for like someone for like, if you were to give advice to me, I mean, we played together. You kind of know how I play, my swing and everything. I don't practice. And if I do, I always, like you said, I always like to go to the course because I feel like it's like real life, right?
Yeah.
It's real world experience, so to speak, real course experience. So like, for instance, like Ansel, I loved Ansel when I was a kid because it taught me how to hit low runners.
Exactly.
It taught me how to play, the punch shots, and it taught me other shots, even though I hated it, because it's frustrating. But then I learned, I'm like, oh no, this is like an opportunity to learn these shots, right?
Exactly. Yeah, still to the day, growing up out of Ansel is my strength. Like I get in the trees, and especially in college, I had the driver yips, so I was in them all the time.
Oh, no.
But it didn't phase me because I could just hit the lowest punch shot, 220 yards, and with like 30 yards of curve if I needed to, because I just grew up being in them all the time.
I will say I've noticed when we play that your recovery shots are among the best.
Thank you.
Like,
a lot of practice. Of
I was gonna. Well, now it makes sense.
Yeah.
Now it makes sense because every time, even if I've seen you go off, or maybe you're, maybe you hook it too much or whatever, you're just not online, right? You're not in the fairway, and then the next shot you just put it on the green. I'm like, how does where's but it makes sense now. So I commend you on that. So getting back to giving me advice, whether to practice or play, or my weakness is chipping, pitching, anything from like, I don't know, 40 yards in.
Yeah.
I'm kind of lost. So, and you've helped me actually work on my chipping too when we're out on the course. But any advice on whether you think I should go practice that or just continue to play on the course?
Yeah, so chipping and putting are probably the only things where you just have to hit as many shots as possible and get the feel. On the course, it does translate over, but if you hit 100 chip shots on the practice green and get it comfortable, it's going to tremendously help on the course. Where the full swing's more feel, and so for the full swing, it's like you go to the range and you're working on something technical, and then when you get on the course, you just have to forget about it and play and let the changes happen naturally. Yeah. What most people do, which I fell victim to, is I was trying to get a perfect swing or make these changes and then think about them while I was trying to play golf, and you can't do that because you're
too many swing thoughts.
Too many swing thoughts, and at the end of the day, you're just trying to get the ball as close to the hole as possible.
Yeah.
So
I heard this. I forget who said it, but they said once you get to that level, it's like you need to practice like you care more than anything in the world, but then when you play, you need to not care at all.
Yep.
It's like a crazy psychology thing. Like when you're practicing, you need to make it perfect, but when you're on the course, you need to let it go.
Yeah, no,
right?
that's 100% true.
Yeah.
Because I'd say like a big thing, especially for amateurs, and if you go to the range and you're not hitting the ball well, and then you're going out to play after, you're doomed from the start. You'll think, oh man, I hit it like crap on the range. Like I'm gonna play very bad today.
Yeah.
Where you sometimes like the best rounds of golf are after you hit it bad because you just have to clear your brain and forget like that was the range, that's not the golf course, and just go out. You can't let something that doesn't matter affect how you play on the course.
Yeah, and I've always said that's why I don't like warming up, because whatever happens on the range before a round is usually opposite on the course, right?
Yep.
For me anyway. Where, I'm like had a great range session and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be the day. Like I'm dialed, and then it's like, and then if I have a horrible range session and then it's a lot better. It's a lot better round.
Exactly. Yeah. I think it lowers your expectations, clears your head a little bit, and you just start focusing. You're like, how am I going to hit it here? Yeah. Rather than if you have a good range session, you're swinging as hard as you can. Yeah. You're like, I'm going to play so good today. And then next thing you know, a few errant balls and you're like, oh, this round's over.
Yeah. Yeah. That's probably one of my main things is I always have a blow up hole where it's like a triple, a quad. And that's just like the other day I was playing and I was, I think 3 over, or basically I could do like a bogey and then par out 3 holes left and a break 80 at Empire Ranch.
Yep.
And remember, I think it's 16. Yeah, it's 16, the short par 3. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, and I missed the green. I'm like, okay, let's get on, 2-putt, bogey, get out. Well, I end up quadding it. So I get a 7 on, and then there you go. I have to like par and birdie to break it. So something like that, like that's, and I'm like, oh, well, if I could just get rid of these, but it just for some reason always happens. Or like on par 5s when I'm like licking my chops and I get an 8, 7 or 8, and I know the main rule, at least what I try to stick by, is no doubles and, or at least no doubles on par 5s.
Exactly. Yeah.
For sure on par 5s. But if I get a double, it's not the end of the world, but one double and then, or none. Right. Mm-hmm. What is your experience? Like, did coaches tell you anything for like course management?
Yeah. So in college is where they really got into it because the courses we played, they would tuck the pins in certain positions, which you normally don't see. When you go out and play, it's either front, middle, or back, and everything's on the middle of the green. When we were playing, we'd get pin sheets and they'd put it 4 paces off, which is the closest it could be. And the greens were very fast and firm. So if you say the pin's on the right, if you miss the green to the right, it's an auto bogey because the chances of you getting that up and down are very slim.
Yeah.
So everything was like where to hit the ball on the green. If the pin's on the right, you hit to the middle and try to make a 20-footer. Par 5s were where you score. You have to take advantage of because you're either on the green in 2 or you're just short for the most part. So that was a big thing. It was always the goal is always to have no bogeys on a par 5 and not 3-putt. And if you can do that for the most part, like your round's going to be fairly good.
Yeah, I mean, I've played with you a few times, and that one day when we played, was it Wild Horse? Or Davis? Yeah. And I was about to play you match play, and I'm glad I didn't because I think you shot like 2 under or something. Yeah.
I went crazy on the back.
Yeah. But so like you said, like I noticed that you always scored on par 5s. Like I think all those par 5s were you had eagle putts and a tap in birdie. you know. So it really, that's why I liked watching you play, because it kind of showed me, you know, your mentality. And then also your saves, like I said, your saves were put you right back in where maybe you have a 20-foot putt for par, or I mean birdie, and then you put it close and tap in for par.
Yep.
So I really liked watching you play. Is that the time we've actually, maybe two more times, but
I think we may have played in one of your networking events. I can't remember where.
yeah.
Played behind you a few times.
Yeah, yeah.
Did we play Yocha together or no?
No, you played with Matt. I remember that. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, he said
Matt and Rich.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you had like 6 birdies that day or something, 7 birdies. Yeah. But yeah, that's it just shows me, like, you know, I think I'm okay, but back in like high school and stuff, I mean, I played a lot, but I did not play to that degree.
Yeah, no, your
You
game's good,
know?
and especially since when we first played, just how far you're hitting it now and how much more consistent.
Yeah.
It's like definitely improved. Probably
Yeah.
about 8 shots. I feel like since we first met and started playing.
Yeah. No, yeah, just in the time like I started playing again with, you know, with our group and stuff. Yeah, I was probably, and what helped honestly too is when I started playing, you know, the men's group at Empire, and then I just played a couple like US Am Tour tournaments, and that really, you really learn where you are.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Or it's a good wake
Yeah,
up
when
call.
you're not given 3-footers
Yes,
and
yeah.
there's a little bit of pressure on
Yeah.
the first tee. That's where it is. Because I remember I took a long time off from tournament golf. I was just playing with my buddies, and I came back, played in a tournament, and the amount of like 2 or 3 footers I missed because I hadn't putted any in 4 years, it was this crazy, and
Yeah.
it made me like have to go back to the putting green and get used to it, because you know you're expected to make those, and you miss one, and it gets in your head, and you're
Yep.
like, oh no.
Yep. Like
So
not again.
when they actually
Yeah.
matter, and you can't just
Yeah.
slap it in, and if
Yeah.
it misses, be like, I would have made that.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. Yeah, I was about to say that, like the old hit it and it misses, like, oh, that's good.
Yeah, and
like,
you
I
do
would've
that
ma-
on a 6-footer, and you make it, and you're like, yeah, I'll eat it every day. If I
Yeah.
could make it one-handed, I would have
Yeah.
made it too.
Yeah,
But it's completely different when there's pressure. You're adding up every shot.
yeah, because with both those tournaments or both those clubs, you have to finish everything. And I've even had it where I've had a little like 6-incher, tapped it, and the pin was in, and it bounced out.
That's just
And you
bad
know,
luck.
and so you like now it's a bogey.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Or
it's like,
before you're like,
yeah,
that went
yeah,
in.
exactly. Before you're like, oh, it's a par. Yeah. So yeah, so going back to like when I was playing, I didn't practice nearly enough, and even now, I can't really practice enough. But I'm okay with where my game is. You know, if I'm shooting in the 80s, I'm happy.
Exactly. That's when it becomes fun. Like if you're struggling to break 100,
Yeah.
I don't see how people enjoy it.
Yeah.
But then, you know, once you start hitting consistently low 90s to mid 80s, like that's when golf
Yeah.
becomes fun. You're hitting it better and things like that.
Yeah. And I think that's when it starts to become addicting.
Yes, 100%.
Like, especially like, you know, when I did quad that par 3, and then ended up shooting 81, and I was like, dang, if I was just doubled it, you know, I would have broke 80. So, and then so that makes me, even though I didn't maybe shoot that well, or I didn't beat my goal, but it brings me out again the next day, right?
Yeah.
So it's
Then you know you're close to the 70s,
Yeah.
which is kind of that magical number that
Yeah.
everyone's shooting for.
Yeah. And even, you know, I was telling you, I've shot, you know, an 83 and 85 and no birdies. Right. So I think that's also hopeful because, okay, you sink a couple of those birdie putts, because I did have opportunities, but they just didn't fall. So it's like, okay, you sink 2 birdie putts, it's a whole different game.
Exactly.
Right. And then if that's happening during the round, you gain some confidence, and it just, I feel like it changes, and changes in a good way where it brings you back for the next round.
Yes.
Right.
Or it just takes that one good shot. Even
Oh,
if
yeah.
you're playing like crap the whole time.
Yep.
You get that one good shot, and that's all you talk about for a couple
Yep.
weeks, and then you're back. You're
Yeah.
like, didn't matter how you played the
Yeah.
rest of the time.
Definitely, because we played with one of my buddies, and he's just starting, and he's at that phase where he's getting addicted, but he's having a bad round. He's about to quit, or not quit, but just like, I don't know if I want to continue after 9 holes, and then hits this amazing, on a par 3, amazing shot, right? You know, on the green, close enough where he had a birdie
Yeah.
chance, and then he's like, oh, I like this game.
Yeah,
you know?
there's nothing better than a good flushed iron. Like, it
Yeah.
just feels so good.
Yeah.
And you hit it right in the middle of the face.
So he's like, no, I'll keep playing. So it's, like you said, one shot. And even one shot will keep you like on that high for, until you play
Yeah, it'll
again.
get you through the bad
Yeah,
rounds
yeah.
just to keep going.
Yeah. So it's interesting. So after college, what is your handicap now? Or would you say?
It fluctuates between. So I don't really get how the handicap system works, just because I don't shoot par every time, but I fluctuate from a +2 to scratch, and like a lot of times I'm shooting 75. But I think just maybe with the tees that I'm playing and the courses, it always seems to be giving me a plus handicap, which I don't feel like I deserve.
Yeah.
And it screws me over when I go and play other people because I can never win. With giving them strokes. So.
Yeah. I know I always get beat whenever I do actual handicap strokes with, any of our buddies or anything.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, yeah, sure, I'll give you 6. I'm like, I get beat every time because it's
anyone
like,
who's a 15 and
Yeah.
I'm playing to a 0, I
Yeah.
can't beat them.
Yeah.
And they're, they make a par and it's a birdie, and
Yep.
it seems like they beat me every time.
yeah. It's I know the handicap system is supposed to like even the playing field, but sometimes, and those people who are like 15, usually like they can go low.
They can,
because
they'll shoot an
they have,
81 on me every time. And
Exactly,
I'm like,
'cause
dude,
they have-
I had to shoot a 66 just to tie you.
Yeah, because they do. I feel like those people do have like the raw skill. Like if you're already down to the 80s or, in that 13, 15 range handicap, you can go low. They have the tools, right?
Yeah.
And of course, whenever you bet a money, then they play.
I think it's either betting the money or like they start playing with you and they raise their expectation, and all of a sudden they're really good. And you're just like, this is not fair.
Yeah.
But.
And then I always say, is that handicap like in your head, or is this actually like USGA? Yeah. And it's usually just like or it's usually just they're made up. Like, oh, I usually shoot an 85. And it's like, okay. So getting back to after college, you did you try to continue to play anywhere, or you just kind of like move straight into like career wise?
Yeah, so at Fresno State, I actually had 2 years of eligibility left. And so I played my first year with them. And that was when I kind of started to realize we had a bunch of freshmen that were really good. And I played about half the tournaments, and I was like, kind of lost the love for the game once I realized that, hey, I'm probably like, or I'm not going to make it to the next level. Just wasn't good enough. So I talked with the coach, and I was like, hey, I'm ready to start working. So from there, I actually started selling steel buildings in Fresno.
Oh, okay.
Did that for a couple years, and then when COVID happened, I moved back home, Sacramento area, and that's how I got into the mortgage industry.
Okay. So when you say that you talked to the coach, or when you had your 2 years of eligibility, were you still going to school, or were you just playing?
Yeah, so I had already finished up school, so I was going to have to figure out what to do with that extra
So you
year.
had to take like classes? You had to take classes?
Yeah, you have to take I think it's 12 units you have
Okay.
to take, so 4 classes in order to be eligible. So I was going to have to do some type of thing, and I don't know. I just felt like it was kind of a waste of time. I was going to play in some tournaments and not the others, but the heart just wasn't in it. So I was like, I might as well go start working. Now, everyone told me I was going to regret it, and I was like, for the first couple of years, I was like, nah, like not at all, but now I do.
Yeah.
I mean, you only get a certain amount of time playing college golf.
Yeah, I know. That's how, even like high school, I played, soccer, basketball, and golf. And even with those, I was like, man, I wish I would just focused. I mean, I focused on them, but at least what I thought back then, but I was like, man, I wish I would have just focused a little bit more.
Yeah.
Unless
you have like
just to
crazy,
be that much better, right? Just a little bit better. Like,
unless you have that crazy raw talent, like it really just takes all your effort trying to get you to the next level.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause when I first started, or not first started, but when my first tournament, with high school, I think I shot 56, somewhere around there. So in 9 holes.
Improvement.
Yeah. And then by senior year, I was shooting the 30s, or breaking 40, I should say. That sounds, shooting the 30s is like 32.
big range.
No, breaking 40 is a better description of it. Yeah. Cause even, again, our school was smaller, but I was lucky enough to where I qualified for like subsections, 1 year. And then we did qualify as a team, for subsections. And then I went to sections on my own. So I was able to go further. just on the little things I did do. But yeah, looking back, I did not practice like you. Like I just played, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is what most kids in high school
Yeah.
do. They go out, play with the team, play
Yeah.
their 9 holes. And that's what's most fun. The
Yeah.
practicing's the boring part.
Well, especially too, I mean, I don't know if you remember, I mean, you can't rent carts when you're a kid. Plus you walk and you carry your own bag in high school for your tournaments anyway. So we were used to it. So, and it was like $10 to play like Mather, or $10. I don't know what it is now because I'm not a junior, but when you're a junior, it's super cheap to play golf, which is nice.
Yeah, they had a cool program when we were out. So it was called the Youth on Course. And the only problem was that you couldn't play till 2:00, but it was $5 to play.
Oh,
so that's why we get there early, and we had to practice all day before we could go out to the course and like, finally get on. And then it's at that time it's super slow.
Yeah.
Everyone's out, done with work, playing. Maybe not done with work, but
skipping
work.
Yeah. Have a evening or afternoon meetings. Yeah. On the golf course. Yeah, because we last week or a week or two ago we went to Empire around like 5:30, and it was just like high school kids, or what I assume high school kids. I don't know. They look young now, but yeah, the course was just, you couldn't even putt on the green. You couldn't even chip up near from the tee box. You know, that chipping green they have. You couldn't even get on there, and it was just like, geez. And I don't know if it's like you said, like maybe just great deals, or the fact that just golf is blown up.
Yeah, no, I've noticed that. It seems like everyone now is into golf that, a few years ago would have never been into it. And it's just the amount of people that are like, hey, can you give me lessons? That type of thing, just because they're starting to get into it and getting hooked on it. It's cool to see.
Yeah. So that brings me up to another question. Do you get hit up a lot for, like, come to the range, go to the range with me, and
I do,
and give me some swing tips? Or
yeah, I try to make as much time as possible to do it, but I mean, I probably get a couple a week that will ask me like, hey, let's go to the range, and for good buddies or referral partners, things like that, I'll do it. Or if I really like you, I'll go out. But at the same time, I mean, it does take 2 hours out of your night, and I like doing it because I spent a lot of time golfing, getting lessons every single week with some of the best guys in the industry, who taught me a lot. So it's not hard for me to do, but I feel like my knowledge only goes to a certain point. Like it definitely helps out a lot more for someone like just if I was to give you a lesson, someone who's starting out, it's almost harder for me.
Okay.
I feel like my changes don't help them as much, but someone with your game, like taking you from shooting low 80s to 75, I think would be easier for me than someone who's brand new into golf and like trying to get them to hit a golf ball.
Like for me, we already have a pinpoint. We have a range of where we would attack, right?
Exactly. And you can already hit the ball very solid. So it's making very small changes where someone who's just starting golf, I feel like I'm very far removed from that, where I almost don't even know where to start. And then they're already not making solid contact with the golf ball. So a lot of it's just repetitions and them getting used to hitting, actually just even hitting the ball, where you're hitting it solid every single time for the most part. Yeah. And it's just small little tweaks to like, hey, now I want to hit a draw instead of a cut or things like that.
Yeah. I tried to like start to learn that, and I'm just like, I'm just going to hit just whatever my natural or whatever.
You get that little bleeder.
Yeah. Cut. A little, power fade or, which is before I used to hit a draw, but I think it was the clubs I had. They were like, they're offset and like cavity backs. Yeah. So I think it naturally did that for me. Right. Yeah. But, whatever I'm playing that day is what I play,
Exactly. That's what you have
like,
to
I
do,
don't fight it, right? You don't fight it. And it's just whatever's happening that day is, and the funny thing is too, I can tell with confidence, I will chip well, everything's great, and that one little duff or that one little blade, and my confidence is gone.
Yeah. That actually happened to me just getting back when my chipping used to be the best part of my game, and I just started chunking everything for like 3 years. And so I was basically like, hey, you got to hit every green or be close enough to where you can putt, because I was just terrified of, there's nothing worse than when you just lay the sod over a small chip so I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, I do bring out the Texas wedge if it's like, if that happened already in the round, and I'm like, I'm not risking it.
I don't want to, especially when it's winter time. I'm putting that all day.
I'm like, I'm not risking it. I'm just putting it. And sometimes, I mean, I would say most of the time it probably doesn't work out that great. But I'm like, in my head, I'm like, well, that's probably closer than I would have chipped it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Even if it's like 30 feet away.
Yeah. Yeah. Luckily,
But
I got the chipping mainly back, so
yeah.
where I'm not having to worry about the chunk, and that's a good feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. So so we were talking about like how people ask you to be or to give them lessons and whatnot, and then and some people ask you to be on their podcast, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so
For you,
so that's
anything.
good. So I'd say so that's good. So you like me,
Yeah.
so that's good. No, I'm just joking. But is there anybody, not anybody, but is there something like that you do enjoy teaching?
I mean, I'd say ideally I would prefer to work with someone with your skill set, like we kind of talked about before. That's the most fun for me, just seeing, because the changes they're quicker.
Yeah.
And you can see the results right away.
Mm-hmm.
Where someone who's starting out, they can start doing it right, but still just not have the hand-eye coordination to hit the ball. So yeah, I like working with people that are shooting in the low 80s and then taking them down to the next level, just giving them a little like pieces of advice.
Yeah. Well, that I mean, even oh, that's right. When we played Bartley Kavanaugh, and you gave me some little, because I did ask you. I was like, dude, I'm like blading, or give me some. Can I have some chipping advice? And you showed me, and then after that whole round, I had it, right, and I was starting to put them close. And then of course, I lost it.
Yeah,
but,
I was trying to think about what I told you to do.
You just told me kind of go out more with the wedge.
Oh, got it. So
rather than, because I was coming inside, and the hosel was, so, but yeah, it's just repetition, and then I think confidence, really.
100%.
So,
yeah, one thing that a lot of people don't realize is, especially when you're at the range, is you're just hitting into a wide open field, and someone told me this when I was pretty young, and I didn't start doing it until later in life, like college, and then even after I started realizing how important it is. But he's like, they always talk about aim small, miss small, right? When you're shooting guns, doing anything like that. And it's so true, because when you're looking at a fairway, it could be 40 yards wide, and you're just looking at a wide open field that you're hitting it in. But if you pick like a small leaf on a tree and aim to hit it there, and you think you missed one, and it's only 5 yards left because you were really locked in on where you're hitting it. Where if you're just like, hey, I want to hit it in this area, it can get off target quite a bit easier.
that's smart. I've kind of just, I've picked something that's like maybe a foot in front of where my ball is.
Yep, that's another way to do it.
And I've used that aim point, that kind of thing. And because then that way when I set up, I don't ever look at the target again.
Exactly, yeah, it's right in front of you.
That's the target.
Yep.
And I just trust it.
Yeah, and that's how you know you're aimed right every single time too.
Yeah, because I had a huge thing where for some reason when I look up, I'm like, oh no, I'm off. Yeah. But it's just me. I'm off, right? Like
you could be completely right, but it's just like it just doesn't feel right.
Yeah. So, and then when I was hitting draws, I kind of set up my feet more towards the right, and then I drew it back. And then now I feel like I'm more dead on straight, and now I hit a fade.
Yeah. Which is easier to control.
Yeah. Oh, okay, that's good. I mean, that makes sense because we're right-handed, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or I guess it's still a fade for lefty.
Yeah. But yeah, for the most part, they always say that when you're fading the ball, it's easier to control. It's less likely to get away from you. Where when it starts drawing, it's just running away. And so that's why a lot of you've seen, like if you watch PGA Tour, a lot more people are hitting cuts on tour because they can control it a lot easier.
Yeah, everyone's because they all hit that power fade.
Yeah.
And I always thought you want to hit a draw. So in high school. Distance. Yeah. Okay. So maybe that's what it was, because in high school, I wanted to just hit it as far as I could, but control it, but hit as far. And everyone's like, "Oh, you got to hit a draw." Yeah. Or learn how to hit a draw, and then plus that way, you won't ever hit a slice. Not ever, but you're less likely to hit a slice.
Got double cross.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I started hitting, and that's probably why I've had that kind of draw shape, but yeah, it was all Phil Mickelson, Back then you just read, magazines or like Golf Digest. Yeah. See. Yeah. I mean, you're a little bit younger, so you had the internet. But...
I did, yeah. Towards the end, that's what really screws you up, though, is you're watching all these.
Oh yeah, you go to rabbit holes.
Everyone has a different philosophy, right? And so you have to buy into one and kind of stick with it. And the problem is when you start going online and everyone's explaining something a different way, and that's when it gets confusing.
Yeah, Yeah, I did when I got back into it again in 2020, 2021. I did start going down those rabbit holes, and finally I was just like, you know what? I'll just take something
Yeah.
and work on it, see if it works. If not, because otherwise you get all these different swing thoughts, different swing planes. You know,
Yeah.
it's just like you said, everyone has different. And I'm a feel person, so I wouldn't be able to. I don't feel like I'm a good teacher of it because I don't know what I'm doing if you like asked me, but I can feel it. You know what
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
mean?
That's what
So
I transitioned. I went from a like very technical player in college, and once I got out, now I rarely ever practice. Only a few times since probably since college that I practice. I only go out and play. So everything's like all feel based on what do I feel in the swing, and how are my divots looking, and then
yep,
I make the adjustments from there.
yep, yeah, that's what I do too. Now I'm not shooting in the 70s, but and I don't know if I told you my goal at the beginning of the year was to shoot in the 70s. I might have told you that, or in this,
You got one
of course,
round,
in the
right?
70s, but in the 70s 10 times, and I have two. I have 77 and a 79.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think I heard about the
So
77. I heard about the
yeah,
79 though.
yeah. Um, and then I thought I've had it a few times, and I just mess it
Just
up.
blew it
Yeah,
up at the
yeah,
end. That's how it usually goes.
yeah. So, I mean, anything else you would like to share about your golf journey, or I mean, anything else that you want to let out? No, I'm just
No,
kidding.
no. Well, I wanted to ask you though, like,
Yeah.
what's your favorite course in the area, and then in general, a favorite course you played?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I would say one that I haven't mentioned yet is I do like Dark Horse
Yeah,
up in
that's a great
Auburn.
one.
Yeah, I like Dark Horse a lot. It's just so tough.
It's so
And
hard. That's why I like
it's
it, but I don't
yeah, it's
because it's
like
way too
because
hard.
it's one of those that it's tough, but it's beautifully manicured. It's a beautiful course, but it's like another Apple Mountain in a different sense, but it just eats you up, or at least me. I mean, we played there too, actually, and I mean, you played pretty well. I
Yeah,
think.
I mean it's still tough though. Like one ball offline, and you're
Yeah,
just
yeah.
you're looking
And
for it in the
this
weeds.
guy freaking, what was it, like a 60-foot putt on the
Oh
first hole?
yeah,
Was it first hole or
it
second
was
hole?
first hole.
First
Yeah,
hole. And he's like, oh, I'm just going to put it close. And then it's like going, going, going. I'm like, that's going to go in. It's like, doop, poof,
yeah.
dropped right in. I
It's
was
funny
like,
you remember
jeez.
that. That was a good one. I forgot about
Yeah,
that.
it's very traumatizing. That's why I remember. No, I was kidding. And I was like, this guy, I was like, no. But I enjoy watching you play. I know, like you said, like you as a golfer or as a competitor, you're like, dang, man, like John always hits his putts.
Yeah.
It's frustrating because it's like I can't catch him. But it's also really good to watch because then you see how you play, how a really good player plays. So
What
it's
you
just
need to
it's
work on. That
yeah,
type of stuff,
exactly.
yeah.
And
You can
just
kind of
like
measure your game up to what I'm doing and be like, oh, this is
exactly.
what I need to get
Yeah.
better at.
Whereas, you can save it, and even if you're not close to the hole, on your second shot or for the birdie putt, you're at least have a chance. Where I think if I'm offline, everything's chipping on, and I'm like, okay, two putting for bogey
Yeah,
right away,
not getting
right?
the chip
Yeah,
close enough.
and even I noticed too with your chips, that are on, let's say in three for a par, and it's a par putt, you sink them. Like you're very consistent at recovery, and you don't do a lot of damage. And I think that's where I'm at right now is how do I limit that damage, right?
Yeah,
And
just
and
practicing.
yeah,
You got to get a putting arc for the
yeah.
house.
I have to get a putting arc, and then also I do need to go chip.
Yeah.
I need
Yeah,
put
that's
it
all short
put
game
it in
is
some.
practice. Like it's the easiest part of the game. It's smallest strokes. But
It's
when
just not
when you get
fun,
when you
right?
get
It's
to your
just
level and you're hitting it as good as you hit it, then from there it's about scoring.
Yeah.
And like that's how you make the improvements.
Yeah.
Where for most people that are starting off, they need to learn how to hit the ball first. And short games, like you can sneak into the 90s with short game. But at the end of the day, to have the most fun, you got to start hitting the ball well.
yeah. And then I did, because I thought it was the putter that was the problem. I did get a Scotty Cameron.
Yeah, you got the best one.
Yeah. And it definitely helps. I'm more consistent for sure, like on my speed and everything. It's just some days are on, some days are off. I don't know. So, yeah. So, getting back to the course. So, I would say the Ridge, that is, or not the Ridge, sorry.
That's a good one too. Though.
Yeah, the Ridge is good. It's another one in Auburn. We've talked about that one. Dark Horse is up in Auburn. The only thing that sucks is so far too.
It is.
It's like it's not Auburn. It's like at the end of Auburn.
Dark Horse is. It's way up. That's why I played it we played it in your networking event.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I don't know if I'm going to go back up there because it was a full hour and 20 minutes. Like I could have just gone to Tahoe.
Yeah, it's pretty deep. So I don't think with the exception of like if a friend wants to go up there, like our mutual friend Rich, he wants to go up there. So I was like, I'll go with a foursome.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to make a huge group or anybody go up there because it's a trek for sure.
Have you played Winchester up there yet?
I haven't. So I haven't played that one.
When you go play that one, it'll be your favorite.
All right. Yeah.
We'll have to get up there with Rich.
The other one that I've only played once, and I'm actually going to go play it here in a couple weeks is Poppy Hills.
Okay.
Again, I've only played it once, but I loved it. It's beautiful. Same kind of thing. It's like Pebble Beach adjacent, right? Mm-hmm. So you kind of get that feel. The only thing I didn't like is they really pushed you on time, which I get, but they were like, every time the marshal came in, he was like, all right, you're 2 minutes behind.
Got it.
Oh, you're 5 minutes. I was like, okay, just tell me when we're like, we need
way behind.
Yeah.
They have it in the cart too up top. So it's like, I know.
Yeah. Or just like, tell me when we need to go to the green directly, right? Or something. But it's like 8 minutes behind. I'm like, okay. By the end, I just gave him a thumbs up. I was like, what am I going to say? What are you going to do? So, but yeah, Poppy Hills, I'm excited to play that one again. Yep.
I have a 4-ball tournament with all our buddies. We do an annual trip. Yeah. And so basically 4 balls, you take the best score between you and your partner. Mm-hmm. And so it's an NCGA event. And so we have 6 of us go up there and we get an Airbnb or a hotel for the week and play against each other and, never get near the top. But so everyone's good now.
Is that just a tournament you guys sign up for?
Yep. Yeah, just sign up.
Or do you have to qualify?
This one you can just sign up for. It's a mid-am 4-ball, so you have to be over 25 to play in it. And I think there's usually 40 teams, maybe more. Yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of good players
Poppy Hills?
out there. Yeah, Poppy Hills, 2-day event.
Yeah.
Yeah, end of September, so it's coming up. I got to start playing.
So So what did you shoot out there then, Poppy Hills?
I actually play there a decent amount. Course is hard. I played it before the renovation and after.
And I'm sure you guys playing the tips, or are you playing like mid?
It depends. For some of the tournaments, I was shooting low 70s, but we were playing the whites. Oh, okay. And then from the tips, I've shot in anywhere from 3 under to 7 over. It just depends. The new layout, I like it, but you got to keep it in the fairway and everything runs out. So if you're not in there, it's those trees you can't get out of those ones.
No. I do remember that, like, you're better off just taking the stroke, not taking the stroke, but like just punching straight out, sideways, like perpendicular, get out.
The trees are too close together to try to advance it forward.
So this time I know, but I thought I was gonna have a career day because I went birdied the first hole, parred the second hole, birdied the third hole. And then I think I doubled the par 5, or whenever the next par 5 was, I doubled, and then it just kind of fell from there. And then too, because we were playing with friends, so after the birdies, we all took birdie shots.
Yeah, that's.
And then
the birdie juice.
The birdie juice. Yeah, it doesn't always work the other way. I appreciate you coming on, and thank you for your time. And now I know that you do like me. That you're coming on to the podcast, and I appreciate you. Just sharing your journey and your story.
Yeah, thanks.
And all your knowledge too. I mean, I love picking your brain about everything. So.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. I'm glad we could finally make it happen.
Yeah, definitely. All right, guys, if you enjoyed the podcast, just keep listening, like and subscribe and comment, and we'll see you next week.